I knew pretty much from the beginning that my family was far from perfect. My dad and mom got a divorce when I was 3. I think the story kind of went, my dad said he had to go out of town for a little bit, and that was the last time I saw him until I think I was 21. So when I was around 4 years old, things got overwhelming for my mom, just trying to raise 8 kids by herself. And she wrote a note to my neighbor. I didn't know what it said at the time, but she had me take it over. Turns out the note said, "Hey, can David stay with you guys for a couple nights while I just breathe and try to figure things out?" And those couple nights turned into like 3 or 4 years, and that I ended up staying with the neighbors. So when that time came to an end, living with those guys, I moved in with my grandparents, and that's pretty much where I stayed until I graduated high school. I think I can see, looking back, for sure, I can definitely see God, talking to me and moving in my life throughout those years. When I was pretty small, I realized that there was a church bus that drove around our neighborhood and picked kids up to take them to church on Sunday. So, I started hopping on that. I would get myself up on Sunday mornings, get myself ready and hop on the bus. And my faith in Christ grew really without the help of my family and in spite of my family situation. As my faith in Christ grew over the years, one of the fundamental things I did learn was that only God can change a person. So I had to lay down the idea that I was going to fix my family or change any of my circumstances that were happening in my family outside of God. My mom couldn't change. My siblings couldn't change. My dad certainly couldn't change. I couldn't change them. So through the years, as I realized more and more that I couldn't fix my family, that I couldn't adjust my mom's thinking or her attitude, I settled into the fact that I could focus on myself and focus on my relationship with God and grow spiritually in spite of my family. My family situation is kind of on one extreme, and some families might be on the other extreme, and no matter where your family falls, no family is absolutely TV perfect.
After hearing David's story, I know some of you may be thinking that you may be in kind of a different situation, or maybe you're in a difficult family environment yourself. But I really want to encourage you by reading just one thing that the Apostle Paul wrote to the Colossians, who were just a group of people following Jesus together. I want to read to you what he said. He said, "You used to walk in these ways in the life you once lived, but now you must also rid yourselves of all such things as these: anger, rage, malice, slander, and filthy language from your lips." He said, "Do not lie to each other, since you have taken off your old self with its practices and have put on a new self, which is being renewed in knowledge in the image of its creator." Paul is writing to this group of people and saying, listen, there's a new you when you decided to follow Jesus. And so he's encouraging them of what that's supposed to look like. But don't miss this. Here's what he says a few verses later. He says, "Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another if any of you has a grievance against someone." And so I want you really just to see 2 things here. And the first thing I really want you to see is I want you to realize that Paul is writing to a group of people following Jesus, and he even has to have this discussion with them. I want to encourage you, whatever your family situation is like, I want you to realize that this group of people who are attempting to follow Jesus together, even they had their difficulties. Even they had their frustrations and their fracturedness between their relationships. I want you to see there's a reason Paul has to tell them to rid yourself of these things. There's obviously problems there, or else he wouldn't have to write. And so I want to encourage you, wherever you are not alone, and you're not the only person who is having trouble. And so I want to encourage you, God has a lot to say about you and your situation. And then the second thing I want you to see is that when God and Paul is writing to us and showing us this, his instructions to us aren't, okay, well, go to that person you have a problem with and go fix them, or go show them this, or go make them understand what I'm trying to say. I think it's powerful that God's instructions to us were to rid ourselves, to put on ourselves, or is the words he used, to clothe ourselves. And every verb that God uses here is personal. And so God is saying to you and to me, you may be in a hard environment, and he wants you to know that's not the end of your story. This does not have to be the end. But the actions that you take, you may not be able to fix your family. That's who you were given. That's just the place you landed. But I want to encourage you that you have the power and the ability to shape your story and your future. And here God is telling us, focus on fixing yourself and focus on what you can control, and let God take care of the rest. So I want to encourage you, students, wherever you are in your story, it does not have to be the end. And even God's people who loved Jesus and were following him had their problems too.
Hey students, just want to let y'all know that next week, November 15th, is high school night, and all high school students will gather here at the church at 7 p.m. And then 2 weeks later, after the week of Thanksgiving, junior high students will gather here at 7 p.m. on November 29th. Oh, see ya.